Hey everybody, it's Dave Blue Jacket 66 here for a quick video. Haven't made a video in a while. Happy to be here. No fancy background here. I'm actually holed up in a hotel. I've got like this long work week where I got to be at this hotel and in the middle of a move. Sold my house, closed on it just the other day. Building in Florida. That'll take about 9 months or so. But I wanted to make a video about the 52 Tops set. That could be an endless video, but what I was thinking about was this myth, or some believe is fact, that the high series of the 52 Top set was dumped in the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean or the Hudson River by Cyberger because they had an overflowing warehouse in 1960. He's actually stated that. I think that was in a interview, maybe it was in Tough Stuff, 1991, where he stated that. But being a little oppositional sometimes, I wanted to make a video on my view of that, and there's a lot of red flags and a lot of question marks, and I wonder if that was really the way it went down. So I wanted to make a video on that, but I'm going to put that together. But while I was thinking about it, I decided, maybe it's time to show my 52 Mantle. But indeed, it's not time, at least not right now. But I wanted to just go ahead and do a quick video about the Mantle series, which is the 6 series 52 Tops. And so, as we know, there was 6 series of 52 Tops, and there are double prints within each series. The sheets were each 100 players on a card, and they've easily figured out that there's a lot of double prints. In some of the first 5 series, like 40 of the cards are double prints and 20 single prints. But in the 6 series, which starts with 311 through 407, as you might guess, that's 97 numbers in between on a 100 card sheet, so 3 cards were double printed. And I think we all know about the 52 Mantle being a double print, and maybe it's short printed, and I have a lot of I'm going to make a video about that because I have a lot of, I think, reasonable questions about all of that. But nonetheless, the 6 series 100 card sheet, 97 players, 3 double prints. Those 3 double prints are, and we know the Mickey Mantle, and what we're going to do on this video is show the nuances of the Type 1 and Type 2 of each of the double prints, which are Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, and Bobby Thompson. I really don't know anything about printing, and there's experts on everything, but we do know that there was printing plates, and there was 6 different colors, of course, red, blue, yellow, there's black and white, and a couple other mixes, and there's their printing plates. So, however, the cards, the Type 1 and Type 2 of the Mantle, and I'll show you as well, the Jackie Robinson and the Bobby Thompson, are not the same card. And it's not like today, where I don't know how they do printing now, but it's not like you can copy and paste the Mantle. Mantle was probably the top left border. He's number 311, the first card in that 6 series. Then came Robinson and Thompson. Where their quote-unquote second print occurred on the sheet, I have no idea. There's a record of a sheet that surfaced somewhere in the early 70s that was cut up into 4ths, but I don't know where else they were on the sheet besides the first 3. But what I'm saying is it's not the exact same card. They essentially, these are colorized pictures, but essentially when they did each of these cards, they didn't just put one down here and one down here. They had to completely redo the card, and that's why there are differences in each of these cards. There are Type 1 and Type 2. They are not a copy and paste where they're the same card. They're completely different cards, and some of the nuances are petty and minor, but on the Mantle they're quite obvious, is because they're 2 different cards with 2 different whoever etched the plates or whatever did different things to them. So I am going to get my mug out of this. I could be one of these guys that puts my itty bitty guy down, little me down there with the headset on and a big microphone that makes me sound like Barry White. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is just put the pictures over my mug and just talk through it. I'm not that fancy. So we're going to talk about each of these cards and the differences in the Type 1, the Type 2 of the Mickey Mantle, the Jackie Robinson, and the Bobby Thompson. Unfortunately, as I go down from each player, the differences become less and less, and the players are less interesting in my opinion, but let's just do it that way. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the Mickey Mantle Type 1 and Type 2. So first let's look at the Type 1, the front of the card. We all know the image, we all know it well, but let's pick out the things that differentiate it from the Type 2. So on the Type 1 Mickey Mantle 52 Topps card, look at that black border with the Yankees logo. There's a nice black box all the way around that. You see that on the Type 1, but not the Type 2. That's kind of the big differentiation. When I look at a card and I'm just glancing at 52 Mantles, that's the one thing that I notice right off. Is the black box complete, a big bold black box around the Yankee logo, and if it is, it's a Type 1. Now look at that Mickey Mantle name box there as well. Nice even black border around that. It's nice and thick and regular, and we won't see that on the Type 2. That's the other thing we see in the Type 1 52 Topps Mantle. Also look at Mickey's name. We're going to look at that E on the end of his cursive writing of Mantle. See how that E is flipped up? That differentiates a Type 1 and Type 2. And when we look at the Type 2, we'll kind of look at the difference. And I'll try to show the fronts of the cards in comparison at the end of each player. Next thing is on that left lower corner there, the corner is blunted. There's a little bit of missing black ink there, so that corner looks a little blunted there. So those are the 4 things that I notice right off on the Type 1. Now on the back of the Type 1, and this is the key between Type 1 and Types 2. On Type 1s, see the stitching on that ball, the upper and lower stitching? The little arrows on the stitching are directed to the left, and that is typical of the Type 1 of all 3 of these cards we'll be showing. So on the Mantle, Type 1, the stitching goes to the left, and you'll see my arrow up there on the top right. That's the other difference. On the Type 1, the text there, the bio there, all the last letters of the bio line up right underneath that H of the word right, when it's batted right. So all the last letters of the bio line up under the H. So that's the Type 1. Now on the Type 2 Mantle, again, my eye goes directly toward that black box around the Yankee logo, and there is typically 0 black on the bottom of that box. There's no black at all, and a lot of times the entirety of the black around the box is very, very weak. So the Type 1 had that big bold black box, and the Type 2 around that yellow, there is no black box, especially on the bottom. It tends to be maybe a little bit around the tops and sides, but it's very weak. Also on that name box there, remember how we had that big bold black line of those stars lined up? Look on the Type 2, it's very irregular. The stars look funky, and it's really a weak black box all around those stars. His name, remember that E on the Type 1 that flipped up? Here, the end of the E is not looped at all. And the last thing, and a biggie, especially if we're looking for counterfeits, is see up on the top left of his card where I had that circled. They call that the missing pixel, even though there was no pixels in this process. It's just a dot of white where it's missing some ink there. And last but not least, look at those left upper borders. They overlap. So the left and right upper borders were nice and even on the Type 1, but on the Type 2, they overlap there a little bit. So the Type 2, you have those overlapping borders, that missing little ink there in the blue field off of his shoulder. and no black around the yellow logo. The E's not looped in his name, and that funky irregular box. Now on the back, just a little bit of change, typical of Type 2s. The stitching this time, which is before was to the left, it goes to the right. Stitching on the ball goes to the right, and look at that text. Remember on the Type 1, the last letters of the bio all lined up under that H in right. On the Type 2, they line up under the T. So I won't show the backs, but let's just do a quick comparison of the Type 1 and Type 2 front of the 1952 Mantle. Fair amount of differences there. Different cards in many ways. Now the Jackie, a little less there. Let's look at the Jackie, what we'll call the Type 1. If we know it's a Type 1, we know if we turn that over, that stitching's to the left on the ball. But let's look at the front first. On the Type 1, there's a couple things. One is that left upper border overlaps a little bit. You can zoom, I don't know if you can see it well, but I circled it. It's not a nice, neat meeting of the border. The top black border overlaps a little bit. And if you look hard enough, and it's on all the Type 1s, I don't know if we've ever seen anybody document this before, but there's a little red dot on the bat. That is uniform on all the Type 1s. Now on the back, stitching to the left, and on the text under right, the text kind of lines up between the H and the T. All right. But the biggie, I think, is on the Type 1. If you look at their trademark, the TCG, there's that black mark on the G. That is on every single Type 1 Jackie. That's kind of a big differentiator, that black mark on that G. So the back of the Type 1, stitching to the left, of course, text ends between the H and the T and that black mark on the G. Let's go to the Jackie, to the Type 2. And the Type 2, remember on the Type 1 there was that overlap of that top left border. You don't see that. The only other difference, and there's differences in cards. Remember, there's differences in the shades of his skin and the shades of the red and whatnot, but that's printing stuff. That's not, there was a difference in the way the card, on the plate itself. So the other one is, if you look at his right shoulder, there is a dot there, and that is seen on all Type 2, 1952 Jackie Robinsons. On the back, so Type 2, stitching goes to the right, and the text on the bio this time, instead of lining up between the H and the T, really lines up, to my eye, between the G and the H. So let's take one last look at the Type 1 and Type 2 Jackie fronts, and again, not a huge difference here. There's that border overlap on the top left. The Type 1 has the red dot on the back, while on the Type 2 there's some black dot on his right shoulder. Now, last but not least, on the double print 1952 6 series is the Bobby Thompson. We'll look at his Type 1, and we know if we turn this card over that the stitching is going to be to the left, but we'll look at the front first. On his Type 1, there is a dot on the rim of his cap, and there's kind of a nice bold, his nameplate's nice, black, and bold, and you're not going to see that on his Type 2. The Jackie, the nameplate seemed to be pretty symmetrical, but on the Type 1, he's got a nice, bold nameplate, and he's got that dot on the rim of his cap. On the back, I don't know of any differences between the Type 1 and 2 other than the stitching here, you can see, is going to the right. I'm sorry, the left. I think I messed that up on my 52 Topps Mantle, but yeah, stitching to the left. Let's look at his Type 2. Here, no longer has a dot on his cap, but he does have a dot under his left eye. Also, that black box, that nameplate back box, looks pretty weak, a little bit shaky, much like the Type 2 on the Mantle. And the other defect that I found is on the that left lower black border. If you look at it closely or magnify it, there's some sort of defect there. It's not a nice solid black line. There's some little defect laterally, and you see that on the Type 2s. On the back, really no difference. Ball stitching to the right. That's about all I've found. So let's take a look at the front of the Thompson, the Type 1, the Type 2, the Type 1. Dot on the rim of the cap, and the nice bold nameplate, and the Type 2 dot under the left eye. I think a little defect in the right lower border, and kind of a weak name box. Now, I've seen a lot of, there's a lot of information out there on Type 1 and Type 2 mantles, but I've never seen anybody do anything on the differences of Type 1 and Type 2 Jackies and Thompsons. It's interesting because it's the high series. It's the series that was thrown in the Hudson supposedly, and there's some big names there. But we'll have to remember that out of the other series, there were 40 or more double prints per series, and I assume that there are differences in some of those cards. Maybe not. There's zero chance I'm looking into that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I am working on the 52 tops. Did the high series go into the river or the ocean? My thoughts on that. That will probably be a few weeks away. We'll see. And at that time, I'll decide whether or not I'm going to dig into the vault. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.